It's December, or December. No idea how that came to mind. I think it's because I was talking to someone on the phone most recently, who brought that month up. Anyway, it is March 26th, 2015. And so that I was describing this gang rape that occurred against me by Gary Goldsmith and his friends, and with Mike Middleton there. And they were all involved, and they didn't look very happy with me. And then they wanted to see if I did feel like committing suicide, which I did. And then I don't recall that their testing of me was to see if I would take Jeanette. I think they actually tested me not about taking pills, although they may have done that later, but they were testing me to see if I would commit suicide with a gun to my head. And because I remember something about a gun involved, and Gary and a gun and something. And that part is something that I might remember later too, but I don't right now at the moment. But what I do know is that after that happened to me, and after then there was this coordinate group in the United States that did the same thing to me at, I believe it was Gary's house again. I was back over at Gary's house when this next thing happened, but it's possible it was in the U.S., but I remember it as being at Gary's house. But maybe it was actually Mike Tanzer, Forrest Tanzer's house. I was in a garage, and it was like someone was working on a car, like an automotive garage kind of thing. It was like a personal garage. It was not a shop, from what I remember, but it was like the shop. It was the garage of someone who really liked to work on cars, or who did work on cars, because there was a lot of like car stuff there. and I got raped again. And that time that I was raped, it involved some Canadians and a couple of people from out of the area, and some black men. And when I was raped that way, instead of, I'm not sure that I remember each one of them opening the can of pop, but they maybe did, because what I remember is that they were putting the tabs up by my head after they raped me. So they'd say, here, you can put that on the tab. And they were supposedly raping me and punishing me because I was saying I should get paid. They shouldn't be stealing my songs from me, and that I deserved to be paid something, and they owed me money. So every time I would say someone owed me money, and something like that, I was getting raped, and they were saying, we don't owe you anything. And also at one point I had, before someone decided to just keep me from having any of my own money, I had a credit card that I was able to use. And I'm not sure whose credit card it was, but someone gave me their credit card, and I was able to use it for a while. And then sometimes if I wanted something, I mean, nothing really big, but if I wanted something, I would say put it on my tab, and my tab would be the credit card that I was using. And at some point I got, when I was saying they quit paying me anything and were just stealing from me, they started saying, yeah, we'll put it on your tab. Here's a tab. and so they raped me, and then they threw all these pop tabs up by my head, and I was lying down like I was strapped down to a table of some kind when they did that to me. And then they'd all have cake. So they would have like a big birthday kind of a cake or a party cake, and then after they all raped me, they would get each of them would have a slice of cake, and then they would eat cake around me. And so that was before Party Pieces, but I think it had something to do with the name that the Middletons used for their business, and or the idea that, you know, if maybe they were just developing it back then, because they were in the development phases way before they decided to actually have a public business about it, because I was included in some of the discussion about it. But possibly if I had said something like I should be paid for even some of the ideas that I had for Party Pieces, they could have even used that as a motive or incentive for raping me and then throwing the tabs up there, because they said something about pieces too. Here's another piece. You want another piece of that? And then you know, then they were also having their pieces of cake, but they were just throwing around a bunch of jokes that they all thought were really funny after they raped me. So basically, when I was getting raped like that in the huge gang rapes, what they were telling me most of the time is either you're a slut and Katie Middleton isn't a slut, or they were saying things like we don't owe you anything, and punishing me, like raping me for even trying to bring up or mention the fact that I was the one who was writing the songs, not them. So they would get really mad about it, because they were making the money off of me and doing negotiations with people who were actually getting my songs and performing them. So then right about the time, right after I got raped by this Middleton group, I was then, for whatever reason, trafficked to Colombia. And I mean, I was flown over there. I don't remember being on the plane. I remember at some point I knew I was going to Colombia, maybe. Or when I got there, I realized I was in Colombia, and I was excited about it at first. And then I was on some kind of I was taken to some sort of a base, like a U.S. Army base of some kind in Colombia. And they trapped me into a room, and they said, well, Middleton says, or Gary's told us that, and over in Colombia they were using, I saw both Gary Erickson, Michelle Erickson's family, and I saw Gary Goldsmith from the Middletons. So the Ericksons and the Middletons knew each other through, I guess, exploitation and trafficking of women for sex and young girls and rape and drugs and that kind of, and government. And when I was over there, Erickson's family, a couple of her family members were there, and also these U.S. Army guys were talking about Gary Goldsmith. And they were saying, well, Gary says that you're a pretty good prostitute, and we hear from England that you know how to be a prostitute, so why can't you do that for us? And I was saying, I'm not a prostitute, and I didn't do that for them. They said it was, you know, like some undercover thing, and then they framed me. And the U.S. said, no, we don't believe that. We believe that you're willing to work for the Middletons and England and the Royals or whatever, but you're not willing to work for the United States. And since you know how to prostitute so well over there in England, we need to see some of that over here. So they basically chained me up and locked me into a place. And they had one guy after the other. Well, they made me get dressed in like skimpy things and put all this makeup on and do my hair and everything, even though I was like under the age of 13. And then they had all of these guys going in to rape me. And one of the guys that they had going into that place, who I remember, was Alvaro Pardo. You know, the same Colombian guy who then hunted me down when I was over in Washington, D.C. in 2008, 2009. So, and he did not, I don't remember that he raped me. Well, I take that back. I think he did do something. But they had him supposedly pretending like he was going to try to help me or something. And also the Middletons over in England, they had made some kind of a game out of, actually it was possibly over in Colombia. If they, I think they were over in Colombia one time too. And they were telling me that in the future I should, if I got raped and the phone rang, and I've already mentioned this form of rape that occurred against me when I was first talking about the different forms of rape that were being used. And how one of them was a threat of like I had to quit resisting being raped after a phone rang or I'd get beat up even more. So they were saying that they were going to do that with Alvaro Pardo, and then they would help me or whatever. But you know, it was just a bunch of lies. Everything that they wanted to really do was to destroy me and to have me thrown into a jail. You know, if they could do that as well. And so here I was getting raped over in Colombia, and they were saying, we have immunity. We have diplomatic immunity. And then Gary was involved in that, Gary Goldsmith. He was like basically selling me out. And then all of a sudden, they decided, the Middletons decided that they wanted to look like the heroes to me. Like they were rescuing me again, the same way that they had kind of acted like over in England. So Gary supposedly contacted the Colombians in some way and said that I wanted to make a report of being abused. And then the U.S. Army and Gary and the Middletons were all telling me, okay, now, first they would abuse me, humiliate me, and degrade me, and basically ruin my life so that I was just, they were glad that I wasn't a virgin. They wanted me to be a used up slut, basically, and look trampy or like a prostitute, and to suffer. They wanted me to suffer. And then they try to turn it around on me and say, you can do a really good service to all of these women who are violently raped, because there are other women in Colombia who have been raped just like you were raped, and you can speak up for them and be their voice. So can you be their voice? Because this is very important, and this is what we really wanted you to do. So you can be an advocate for all of these raped women. So that's how they would spin it. You know, don't get mad at us. Don't sue us. Don't tell anybody, because this is all part of a greater plan. And you're a heroine. You are a hero for now standing up, experiencing what all these other women experience, and standing up for them. Well, they just said that just to as like a consolation to keep me down and keep me from reporting all of them, because I saw how they looked when they were making porn tapes of me. And they didn't just have me raped, they were making a bunch of pornographic materials of me and making the videotapes. They weren't destroying it. So then after all of that, they wanted me to act like I was helping these Colombian women. And that's not what they were after. They were after getting documented porn and prostitution out of me and degrading me. And I'll make this next clip in just a second.